¿Qué tal, amigos? Estoy muy contento el día de hoy porque este episodio es traído a ustedes gracias a Luxor Technologies, que más allá de ser un pool de minería que está presentando un enorme crecimiento a nivel global, justamente le están prestando muchísima atención al desarrollo de Latinoamérica, acompañando a los mineros, acompañando el desarrollo de las granjas en Latinoamérica. Y más allá de prestar el servicio también de suministro de equipos, los invito también a contactarlos en su sitio brokerage.luxor.tech y poder observar los precios de los mineros, usados, nuevos, diferentes gamas. De verdad, muy interesante el sitio. Les recomiendo que contacten al equipo que está en el desarrollo de negocios. Te pueden prestar servicios de agentes si vas a importar una gran cantidad de equipos para que todos los equipos vengan perfectamente probados. Te pueden ayudar con infraestructura si falta alguno de los equipamientos o periféricos para equipar tu granja. O si al contrario, solamente necesitas asesoría, consejos de cómo desarrollar tu granja a mediana y a gran escala, búscalos a ellos, Luxor Technologies. Justamente les dejo el link aquí abajo. Y también este episodio es traído a ustedes gracias a BeInCrypto. BeInCrypto es un portal muy nuevo y muy reciente de noticias de la industria y de verdad con un enfoque muy especial en la educación. Entonces vale la pena darle un vistazo. El resumen de este episodio lo van a encontrar en la plataforma de BeInCrypto. Así que sin más preámbulos, les invito a disfrutar de este episodio.
Welcome to the Poop the Other Renewables panel. Chris and Ricardo are going to be discussing how to turn poop into Bitcoin, and Max will be your moderator. Welcome, guys.
You guys just come on up. I think we're just going to get it going. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Can we, the house lights maybe a little dimmer? Or I guess those, I don't know if those are house lights, but those are super bright. Guys, I think the easiest thing to start off is to introduce yourselves, and then let's talk. And then after that, after the introduction, do just like a high level on your company and what you guys are doing.
Right. My name is Ricardo Carmona, and I'm actually developing this company called Biomining. What we're trying to do, and we're just ready to be operational really soon. We're building this facility where we actually collect manure from our own farm, pig manure, and we throw in there. We can actually process many other things, biomass. We'll get on it. And we actually have our first gen set on site. We're building that power to actually mine Bitcoin directly on site. So that would allow us to actually create the power we need. That would actually create a real impact around the community we are. The farms in Mexico and probably many places create a lot of pollution. We throw that, like as a human race, we throw everything our animals produce to the rivers, to the lakes, and that's a real issue that we're trying to tackle through Bitcoin mining.
And good morning, I'm Chris Yerko. I'm with Force of Power. We do professional mining services, a wide range. I'm here because my area of expertise really is in anaerobic digestion and biomass projects. So we're developing both on-grid and off-grid energy sites. But like I said, I'm here to talk about anaerobic digestion. I've been in the industry now about 14 years, have been involved in 11 projects that have gone to commercial success. And actually the first two were in 2011, which were the first two anaerobic digestion utility scale projects in the United States. And I'm just excited to be here because this is where the innovation happens, and it's how can we truly take biomass, biogas, and all that potential energy, and as was mentioned, to turn it into Bitcoin. You heard of spinning straw to gold? Well, let's turn shit into Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to make like the shitcoiner joke, but it's an easy one with the biogas stuff. And by the way, I'm Max Tagley. I already introduced myself. My company's Encova Digital. We come from the oil and gas side of the world, primarily natural gas. So Encova, our parent company, buys and sells natural gas, and that's how we got into the space as well. And so this is traditional gas is what I'm used to, but this is also very fascinating because I think there's so many parallels and some of the challenges that we face using just straight, natural gas from a well. You guys probably face a lot of the same challenges, but just kind of nuts and bolts for people that don't know, how do these digesters work? Whenever you just kind of walk through the process of going from this waste product and how that turns into methane, and then we'll talk about power gen and some other things after that.
Want to take this one?
Oh, sure. So, for example, we have we've done plants recently utilizing dairy waste in a couple of states, utilizing poultry waste, utilizing food waste, basically any type of carbon waste. And in anaerobic digestion, what you do is you really take that biomass and through a digester and with the proper chemistry, microorganisms, it generates typically about 60 to 75% methane. There's also some CO2, some other gases, and then it also has byproducts of a digest state. And we take that methane. What we've traditionally done is in two directions, either to refine it to turn it into renewable natural gas, or obviously to take the methane to drive generators to create power.
On like the gas quality side, is the mix of what you're putting in, that's what's going to affect the gas quality? So if it's different types of waste, that's going to maybe these other inerts that come out of it, or how calculated can you be when you look at what's going in terms of what's coming out?
Well, you go ahead. No, please.
Go for it. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Either one of you guys can answer.
No, basically, what it will give you a better quality will be kind of the concentration of energy content that you can find in different biomass that you can throw there. Yeah, definitely you can throw pig manure. In our case, that's sort of the videos that you're watching right now. Pig manure, you need to throw water into the floor, so actually you can run that down, and that will actually dilute the amount of power, the amount of energy you got there. And yeah, what you will expect is to that concentration be between 50 and 60, but depending if you throw there whey milk, which is actually like, I would say gold, but it's kind of Bitcoin. So it will be like a better quality for us. It will probably increase the yield rather than the amount of methane in percentage. It will be like a higher yield. So
it's pretty interesting. And then like on the back end with these composters or digesters, any other treating, or is it, I mean, when it comes out, you basically just have this product that you can then run through a genset, or you mentioned treating or processing, what happens on the back end of these?
Yeah, I can show you with this video. Actually, what you can see in one of the containers, it's the basic scrubbing you need to, in our case, in our farm, where we need to remove the H2S from that stream of biogas, right? So we can protect our equipment, our gensets, and yeah, that's basically it. We don't take it too much farther from there. That with that only single step, we can actually have a good flow of biogas, which is like 60% methane, and that will create our yield.
Yeah. On the power gen side, talk a little bit about taking it from gas and then turning it into electricity. Chris, if you want to go.
Well, and first just to clarify, Ricardo has a couple of working plans and very specific. As I mentioned, I've been involved with 11 different projects, and we've used different technologies, different feedstocks. And also, I'm not an engineer, guys. I'm a developer. So as we get real technical, so for example, on a site actually in North Carolina, yeah, we take the methane, and it's just used to drive a 2 megawatt generator, and it's pretty straightforward. Obviously, different plants will have different process, and so again, I'm technology agnostic. We're about we've worked with a number of different feedstocks, a number of different areas. Like to look at the whole area. Where's an appropriate site? What's the potential feedstock? Can we get tipping fees and get our fuel for free? What process is going to benefit to get us the maximum energy, per dollar? So there's I guess my point is just that there are multiple avenues to our solutions, and frankly, that's why I'm excited. As mentioned, I'm relatively new to the Bitcoin mining industry, and what's gotten me so excited is that we have a room full of passionate people that are truly innovators, and just because you're not in the line I'm in or the line that anyone next to you is in doesn't mean you don't have the solutions, because Bitcoin mining is really the catalyst. So that's, I don't know, very global answer to get to it, but there's a number of approaches, and it's going to depend on your region. And I'm just a problem solver at heart, looking forward to how we can figure out how to get there.
And I want to add up to that to tell you the beautiful story that got me into this. having been around Bitcoin since 2014, having been around mining, but not actually going in, what I find really beautiful in this facility actually, we have 10,000 picks, right? So the thing is that this biodigester, it's like a stomach. You can throw there many stuff, and it will process it. The bacteria are an amazing way to process that compost, that slurry. And what actually you can do in that farm, this is like kind of funny and interesting. This farm, we're getting paid to grow pigs. Those aren't even our pigs, so we feed them and we grow them. And this multinational company has no idea that we're using the poop to create Bitcoin, right? Not only that, we also add in one of those pools is the reception pool, and that receives actually not only pig manure, it receives, for example, whey milk from another like big major company in Mexico. They don't know that we're doing this, and they're actually paying us to collect the whey milk. We're collecting, I think it's called vinasse, but it's like the tequila byproducts. So probably you're drinking some tequila outside, and they don't know, you don't know that we're actually processing that and turning that into Bitcoin. We're actually like half in that farm is half our pigs, is half anyone else's energy, and that's really interesting, and that's something that then we can control how much costs, labor costs, and we can improve on that. But the energy, the actual energy, the internal energy of that slurry, it's basically negative cost for us. So
it's this like awesome free market solution. That's what's so powerful about Bitcoin, how it's changing things in energy, is that I think the world, we really have almost an unlimited amount of energy. The problem is harnessing that energy and figuring out how to use it for its most productive use case. And so this is something that what you guys are doing, is just an amazing example of something it's a free market driven thing. Like there's no one saying, hey, I'm going to subsidize your Bitcoin operation, or hey, I'm going to come in and we're going to get tax credits for this Bitcoin operation. Maybe, there's something here with renewable natural gas. You might get some kind of special advantage in the US. I don't know, and we can ask that as a question here in a minute, but it's just beautiful that it's something that's natural and you guys are doing it and it makes economic sense. When you think about this, that's leading into the next question. How do you, maybe it's different with each one of your operations, but how do you think about marrying those incentives? And when you're going out to look at these types of deals, what I found in natural gas is that it's always hard because you have somebody that produces natural gas, you have a Bitcoin miner that wants to use it. The Bitcoin miner wants free gas, right? They don't want to pay for the energy. They want the cheapest energy because that's what Bitcoin miners are trying to do. Natural gas producers want the highest price because that's what they do. Just talk about how you think about structuring these, aligning economic incentives. Is it easy? Has it been hard? Getting these types of deals done? I mean, that's a broad question, but that's what I'm fascinated with.
Well, you're right. There's nothing simple about it. It's complicated, but it's very exciting. And I'm going to think about our project, North Carolina, for instance. So that's the poultry waste. So first of all, we can go so many places with this question. First of all, we're using 300 tons of poultry waste a day. You say, how much is that? Okay, well, 300 tons is, I looked it up, it's the size of a Boeing 747. So quite a bit. A day.
Wow.
Now the question is, well, how much is that? What is it? How much potential supply do you have? Well, where the plant was picked, and it's picked for very specific reasons, and it's a whole other conversation, within the 6 counties which make economic sense to ship it in, there's 11,000 tons being produced a day. So for every 110 chickens, we're taking the waste from 3 of them. So we're just scratching the surface of that potential energy, right? Now we look at it as it goes through the process. For me, it's almost been the tail wagging the dog. I've been an energy guy. But matter of fact, one of my contacts in the fertilizer world just came to see me today, excited to help us with this. We're producing organic fertilizer in a couple different sources that really now has gone up 3 and 4x in the last 2 years. And so you've got a project that almost can pay for itself now off of the byproduct. So we're excited then to say, okay, let's design that next project where we have all that potential energy. We've got a project where we're taking the potential greenhouse gases out of the air, because if you didn't do anything, it'd be methane to be going to the air, or this waste to be going to landfills and lagoons. How do we do that? Make sustainable, renewable fertilizer, finance this, and then use the powers to mine Bitcoin. It's wonderful, and I'll steal this from Chris Hare, who's sitting in the front row, who's another. I keep saying, Chris will be up here next year. He's got a wonderful plant near Raleigh, by the way, and you guys should talk to him about it. It just, I don't know if I go there. It just makes good sense. It just makes good economic sense.
No, to talk to you a little bit about biogas. As Chris mentioned poultry, I'm mentioning swine. So actually, there are 3 sources of biogas that is worth mentioning. You can actually get biogas from animals, from manure, probably some food waste. Let's group that into one. But you can actually create biogas from landfills, or let's say harness biogas from landfills, and you can actually harness biogas from wastewater treatment plants. So those 3 are basically untapped markets. And why is it that we have the technology, we have guys like Chris that are building projects since many years ago, and why is it that there are not many of them like putting the energy into the grid or the natural gas grid? And it has to do a lot with the incentives that Max was mentioning. So just a handful of projects are being actually operational right now in the States with all the biomass that this country produces, that Mexico produces. There's only a handful. And it's only when tax credits, and it's only when carbon credits, artificial markets are created that these projects can come to fruition. And it only comes a handful of them, like really big ones, because it's the only way that it makes financial sense and somehow. So this is going to actually lower the bar, make profitable more projects. And in cases like Mexico, where those artificial incentives are non-existent, it will enable a get off zero in some sort of sense.
No, I mean, that's the thing, that it's that you have this ability to do something that's free market, right? That can create a very, very high economic use case for projects that otherwise would be dependent on some type of, whatever it may be, subsidy or some type of program. And I wanted to ask that question, in the RNG, renewable natural gas world, what does this look like in comparison to that? Can you still get some of these types of benefits if you're converting it into electricity and into Bitcoin? Do you still get these access to any of these programs? I'm just not as familiar with that side of it.
I guess the simple answer is yes. It's not quite that simple, but yes, there are incentives there. We're looking at we started developing a project in Pennsylvania where we've got the full backing from them because they're looking at grant money, et cetera. Why? Because they've got an issue with dairy waste is contaminating the Chesapeake Bay watershed, right? So there's money there. The thing, and actually, I thinking back, and Chris had reminded me of it. He had some wonderful points. Speaking of that, the other thing, don't forget. Traditionally, and I can say that these first 11 projects, what was so significant was us having to, in addition to the incentives, land the right PPA to make it work. Yeah. And who's controlling the PPA, right? It's your large utilities. Well, they're not going to get you a good deal, right? So the economics of when you've got the other component of I'm being paid to take waste, I'm getting paid for the byproduct, wonderful, renewable, sustainable fertilizer, and now instead of selling it for pennies to the utility, I'm going to get the economic advantage of mining Bitcoin. That's where it comes together. So why am I excited? Because we've done 11 projects, which, and again, sadly to say that may well be the largest amount in this country. But I'm excited to be here, and we're looking for the right partners, guys. How can we really drive this revolutionary energy movement, but fueled by Bitcoin? So that's the difference. Incentives are key. They're going to be less important as long as we're here in the Bitcoin space.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about renewables, there are people immediately gravitate towards solar and wind. These are the intermittent renewables, right? They're the popular mainstream ones. Mm-hmm. They don't work all the time. Oftentimes they may not work when you need them to. But there's other types of renewables, like whether it be hydro, people will throw, biomass, like wood or, traditional burning biomass. But this type of renewable is interesting because you do have a fuel source that can be transportable, storable, and that is really pretty much almost like a base load. You've got a consistent feedstock, and it's coming from another source like, these dairy and all these poultry and these things that we need for our food and agriculture. And so it's always going to be there. And again, it's like that to me is more of a definition of renewable, is something that we already have it. We're capturing what would otherwise be waste and we're turning it into an economic benefit versus just something that's got the buzzwords and it's, people want to promote it. But
No, I love that point. You're right. It's here. People are going to still eat chickens. They're still going to. I don't know who had a steak like I did last night. Right? We're still gonna rely on cows. It is here. It is readily available. It's potential energy that's just waiting for us to utilize. And another piece. I don't have to go to China for precious metals in my project.
Yeah, exactly.
And it runs 24/7, 365. It is base load. Doesn't matter if the wind blows or the sun shines. So, yeah, you can tell I'm a fan.
Exactly, and in Mexico, if you're lucky, we have like 40 million pigs, living pigs already, and if you're lucky, just probably 100 of the farms are actually venting the biogas. Like probably no one is even flaring, which you should actually see them. I mean, it's turning into methane as we speak in every single place. This is happening. This is a non-stop industry. We're not operational yet. We're burning a lot of that biogas, and it won't stop. In wastewater treatment plants, it's another game. That's a huge stream of water, of wastewater that comes in and comes in every single day, millions and millions of gallons a day, and you can actually do the funny math. I would need like 75 pigs to power an S9. I will need 168 to power an S19. We will need like 500 people to power an S19 if we collect our yeah. So that's not gonna stop. Never. It's actually a renewable thing if we want to keep ourselves alive. And if I can leave you like with a message from this talk, it will be like keep your curiosity like with really open eyes and try to make that link, try to connect that person that it's around that source of energy, around that source of power that could never have thought about mining Bitcoin, about taking advantage of the geographical limitations, of the economic limitation that actually are, let's say, you can transform that into new advantages right now.
No, it's great. The other thing is that this theme, I think it fits very well within some of the core, what I would feel like are core principles of Bitcoin. You've got this ability to have a distributed operations, right? They can be off-grid. You can put them in local communities. You can have it, it doesn't have to be this big centralized thing where you're on the grid and you've got this giant facility. You've now got almost different nodes that can be all around, because everywhere that we live, you have the ability to do this in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through the wastewater, like you mentioned, or through these different type of agricultural processes. So that to me is like a really, if you have to think about Bitcoin mining, how I would like it to be designed, I would think that this type of design where you've got these kind of natural incentives and that are spread out and distributed, I think fits very well with Bitcoin. But Ricardo, I think it's interesting the point you made around just the communities and what this can do. And just talk about that a little bit, like this opportunity to where they have these natural resources that are being wasted or polluted today. But what kind of impact could this have where you're from and with the people there?
Yep, I think that the first impact will be, and that we want to make, it's around the farmer themselves, right? So it's kind of a volatile industry. You can have really bad months, you can have really bad seasons, and being able to monetize around that in a small farm, medium-sized farm, it's really important. Let alone the jobs that we can generate around facilities that are actually kind of there somehow. You can find like 800 biodigesters in Mexico, but those are mostly abandoned. They don't have a reason to keep them operational, and they don't have a reason to hire someone to run them and to kind of follow up on the operation. So that immediately will change, and you will like to have that as really pretty operation once you get the benefits from it. And that's gonna, we have many upsides, and let alone the pollution levels. The communities basically hate any pig farm. The communities get together to try to keep them out of their locations, and this will actually make farm cleaner. And maybe the community will say, like, why aren't they throwing this away anymore? What are they doing? And they probably are far away from any big city. They're probably far away from any natural gas grid. But this is going to happen, and this is going to impact in so many different levels. And in terms of the people, I think it's going to be really important for us.
It's just a recap, and we've got about 6.5 minutes. I'd like to do some audience questions here in a minute. Maybe the last 5 minutes we take for some questions. But I think the really cool thing of all the things we've hit on the fact that this is truly renewable. And we hit on the fact that this is distributed, the different ways that this can be across the community, the economic benefits. All these things are coming from this technology, and it's organic, right? This is not something that's forced. And to me, that's why these stories about what you guys are doing are so powerful, and where I think it's actually making an impact on the energy industry into the future. And so with that, I just wanted to ask if anybody in the crowd has questions. I can keep going. We can ask questions. We've got a mic up here. If you guys want to raise your hand or get up in line, you can just step up there and ask questions, and we'll go for the last 6 minutes here.
Hi, good morning. I have a question about, talk a little bit about the operations or the supply chain. You mentioned that it required, to power an S19, you need, what, 10 pigs? I forgot the number.
It will be like 175.
Oh, 175. And you have 10,000 pigs, so how often do you have to kind of refill the...
Yeah. What we do is actually we have like 4 different models, and those models actually collect the water, but we have gate valves, right? So we actually can support that activity with 1 or 2 releases of those valves. So I can collect the manure of one module, and then once a day I pump it to our biodigester in some sense. So yeah, maybe one module does the full load of that day, the next one the next day, and we administer that so we can actually have a constant production.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, so after you process all the waste, there's still got to be quite a bit of physical waste left over. Does that still get used to recycle into fields for fertilizers and other things like that?
Yeah, for the poultry waste plant we're talking about, we actually just get tons of organic fertilizer that we actually have contracts for to sell, and then there's also some liquid. In this case, is ammonium sulfate, which is again utilizes a liquid fertilizer, or we can actually recrystallize it and use that. So it actually for poultry waste, one of the reasons I really like it is it, by all U.S. standards, meets the requirements for organic fertilizer.
One quick thing that I think it's gonna make sense for a lot of you guys. There is another byproduct that we can actually produce, and that we probably would not hear anyone talk about it in this conference, and it's heat. If you have, like we saw yesterday, we saw a 200 megawatt plant operation, 200 megawatt plants that's completely turned into heat, and it's going to the environment. I mean, they're not taking advantage of that. So what we're proposing in our farm, it's trying to harness that. And the best way to do it is actually, there's a video there where we show this heat exchanger. Basically, what we can do and we will do is actually get that heat from the miners, and which is probably 85 degrees Celsius and hot air, and we can exchange that to hot water, and then with another heat exchanger that we're showing there, we can actually throw that heat into the biodigester, which will increase our biogas yield, which will increase our Bitcoin yield. So that loop, it's meant to be. I mean, it's one of the things that we try to do. One of the things that we always need to be thinking how to take advantage of that heat, which is actually real money.
You talked about pigs and chickens, and I was just curious, sort of like what variance do you get as far as energy production from different livestock, and how does like the feed of the livestock apply to that, or do you have kind of metrics on that? That makes sense.
I guess, yeah. The simple question is, depending on what the feedstock is, you're going to have perhaps a different chemistry in the process. For instance, in the going back to poultry, we're using just all of the waste from fryer chickens. If we're talking about a dairy farm, it's just dairy cows. So there's a uniformity of the waste, so that does help. By the same token, though, we've also done projects using food waste. It's going to be much more varied, so it's just a little different chemistry. So I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
Ricardo, I think you had mentioned wastewater treatment plants as an opportunity. I was wondering if you can go into that a little bit and explain how you see that process working.
Yeah, there's going to be, I will invite you to check an article that's going to come up probably a couple next weeks. I kind of lay down what I can see, what I can explore from the wastewater treatment infrastructure in the States. So to pick this in numbers, you have like 14,000 wastewater treatment plants around the USA. Only 10% of those have biodigesters, because you don't need it to clarify the water. You can do any other processes, but only 10% have biodigesters. And from that 10%, only 10% have generation installed. So that gives you a perspective that from 14,000, you get only 140 probably that has gen sets. And the future is bright there. I mean, you can actually see those projects that are running, they have a lot of generation power. You can have hundreds of megawatts available right now. Most of them are really untapped, but what Chris and I will start doing is actually scouting for those that are better developed, better connected, those that are actually receiving pennies for that energy that they're producing. And we're going to see that changing, and we're going to see that cascade into those projects that are actually never been developed. But I don't know if you agree with that, that potential, it's there, man. I probably will be setting up miners this year in landfills in Mexico, because the power is there already, but they're getting pennies for the dollar, and that's the first step. And from that on, there is.
Guys, we just hit the time. Let's do one more. So I've been waiting, and then we got to end it with this.
Cool. Wonder if you could comment real quickly about just like ballpark estimates for capex for like one per megawatt, developing from scratch or just converting an existing site to harness for Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a challenging question, because depending on the technology. And which feedstock.
I would talk about the digester because to me that's because the Bitcoin mining depends on the types of units you use, but really just the digester itself and that process would be interesting.
Right. I don't know. We're talking maybe 3 to 5 million per megawatt. On the other hand, there's a project we're working on where we found stranded assets from a biomass plant that was no longer working, and on that one we're talking about getting a much better return of maybe 2 million a megawatt. So
nice.
I'd like to say to all of you out there, if you're familiar or you come across stranded biomass plants, let me know, because we can talk about the economics there as well.
What about like a septic tank at my in-laws' house?
Can't help you with that one.
Okay.
You can power a USB miner with that?
Yeah, the USB stick miner. Thank you guys so much. This is a fascinating topic. Thank you guys on the panel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.